All right, good evening. It is 6 p.m., March 16th, 2020. Time to call the City Council meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mr. Austin?
Here.
Mr. Blankenship?
Here.
Mr. Hukin?
Here.
Ms. Jones?
Present.
Ms. McGinnis?
Here.
Mr. Reinierson?
Here.
And Mr. Taylor?
Here.
So you have a quorum.
Thank you, ma'am. Brian, would you lead us in prayer and pledge, please?
Let's pray. Our Father, we come to you tonight in what seems to be somewhat uncertain, unprecedented times, and we ask that you would calm our hearts, nerves, and fears. I pray that you would help us in the days ahead to trust you, and I pray that you would be with all the areas that are touched here in our local city by this pandemic. Be with our local businesses, be with our residents, be with all the parents of the children who they're now kind of finding themselves in kind of uncertain times of how to educate and take care of their kids. I pray that you would give them wisdom of the decisions they need to make and provide for them. I pray that you be with both our national, state, and local leaders as they need your wisdom to make decisions in the days ahead. And I pray that you would be with all of the items on the agenda tonight. I pray that they would be considered well and decisions would be made based upon wisdom. And I trust that every decision made would be in good faith, the best decision for the city of Franklin and our residents. Lord, we love you and we pray all this in your name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. One of the first things I want to say is welcome our new council person, Lisa Jones. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Is there any other announcements, presentations, public comment? And I will say later on in the agenda, I'm going to talk a little bit about the actions that's been taken this week by our department heads and what the city's being proactive in fighting this coronavirus. So, but before we get to there, I want to go ahead and go on with our regular business. How about the consent agenda?
Mayor, move to approve the consent agenda as written.
Second.
I think we have Mr. Taylor second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, there isn't any old business.
Move to read new business by title only.
Second.
I'm going to say that second was Mr. Hukin. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none. We'll go into the very first item, Johnson County Public Library presentation, year in review. We wanted to shorten the agenda today, and we had asked Assistant Director Sarah Taylor to come back at a later date to give us her presentation, and she more than willingly agreed. So I think we do need a motion to take that off the agenda.
Move to table.
Okay, I think we need it not to table, I think we need to take off, and then she will, because if we table, it comes back the next
Comes
week.
on the next agenda, and she's gonna let us know when she comes.
Move to remove.
Second.
Second by Mr. Taylor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next, Common Council Ordinance 20-02, an ordinance approving sewage works revenue bonds Series 2020 to finance improvements to the sewage work system. Rick Hall, Barnes and Thornburg. This is for introduction only, and thank you for coming tonight.
My pleasure. You have before you an ordinance that would authorize the issuance of additional sewer revenue bonds of the city. The purpose would be to finance the east side interceptor, the west side interceptor, and related lift stations, and then also various sanitary sewer manhole rehabilitation throughout the city. The ordinance authorizes the issuance of bonds in the amount of $5.25 million up to That's the maximum amount. And they would be for a term not to exceed 25 years. The process here forward, if you adopt introduce and then later adopt the ordinance, would be to publicly sell the bonds like we have in the past through a competitive bidding process, and that would take place in May, and then we would close in June. So introduction tonight, final consideration at your April meeting, and then a competitive sale process in May, and then closing in June, and the proceeds would be available. These are all part of the larger financial plan for the sewer utility that I know Jeff Peters has helped you assemble, and it fits into the rate increase that you adopted earlier this spring. So if there's any questions for me or Jeff on either, we'd be happy to answer them.
Rates ought to be pretty good right now.
They are pretty good. They're close, they're falling about as far as they can fall, yeah. But the market is also very jumbled right now too, so we'll just have to see how things play out. It's hard to imagine in the next several months that rates aren't going to continue to be very attractive from a historical perspective.
Tell that to my 401k.
So just so the council's aware, there's two parts to this, Jeff, on the financing. If you can, this is the $5 million project that we talked about. And then there's about a $14 to $15 million project, close to that, just using round numbers, that we're looking to finance a different way. So we'll come back to the council when we get ready for that. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, in the rate study that you approved and the rates that you imposed, it included about $19 million worth of debt service, and those were estimated across 20 years. This being a 25-year financing that you would have approved, we may cut that back to 20, but wanted to provide flexibility at this point in time. The proceeds that the engineers have said they need at this point is $5 million for those projects that they need to undertake now. The remaining $14 million we would anticipate later this year going to the state revolving fund, because a lot of those projects should be eligible to be funded through that program, which actually will give you a subsidized interest rate. And the mayor asked a question ahead of time. Now that rates are lower, would it be more advantageous to try and finance everything right now? It should not. There should still be a difference between the rates that you get in the open market and the subsidized rates of the SRF. And we originally did that calculation last year to determine what would be the best scenario for you. And it came out that the financing savings would outweigh any additional cost of going through the SRF program. And one of those is more extensive engineering costs to get through that process at the state level. But we weighed all those together, and it made more sense for you to cut this into the two financings and go about it that way.
Jeff, if I remember right, it's close to $250,000 in the savings. Does that ring a bell?
It does not. But
How much?
if you remember that, yeah. I don't remember. I remember doing the calculation, but I don't remember what it came out to.
Several $100,000, because I was in that meeting, we did it.
It was well worth it to go that route than the other. And the deviation between the open market rate and subsidized rate should pretty much hold true going forward.
Mayor, could you speak on behalf of the Sewage Works Refunding Revenue Bond Series 2013, dated December 13, 2013, which is our prior bond? Is that?
That, Rick's not here, Sally's, I don't know if you heard the question, but Jeff probably knows that better than me. That bond is just about paid off.
It is. There's some fund left in debt service reserve, and I think there's a little bit of money that would come out of the operating fund to cover that. But what we're actually going to do through this ordinance is leave that debt service reserve money in place and use it as part of the debt service reserve for these new bonds. But it will dovetail right together. There will be no interruption in the payment schedule for that one. it'll pay off, then these will be left outstanding, and that cash balance will be retained as debt service reserve. But those proceeds were used, I believe, to improve the plant at that point in time, and I think it was 20 years ago,
And we have, what, a year left on that here?
I think
right
it's-
around there.
Yeah, it's a little bit less than a year.
Okay. Because I know it's in the verbiage here, so I just want to ask that
Yeah,
question.
so in here, whenever you issue bonds like this, there's a covenant to bondholders when you can issue additional debt that has the same priority as they do in terms of the lien on the sewer revenues. So the 2013 bonds have a first lien on your sewer revenues. And there's a coverage test that you have enough revenue that it's 125% or 150% of the debt service. Then you can issue new bonds that are on a parity with the 2013 bonds. And we can meet that test here. So these new bonds will be on a parity with the 2013 bonds. And then the bonds that Jeff referenced coming later in this year would also be on a parity with those two issues because there's enough coverage. But when we issue these bonds, we have to acknowledge the existence of the 2013 bonds.
Any other questions? Okay. Going once, going twice. Thank you for coming, Rick.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it. Just, Lynn and I were talking earlier here, and Mr. Hall asked if we could waive the rules and do all this in one meeting, but I think with just the transparency part of it, we want to do it in two meetings and give the opportunity for the public to come. If there's anybody in opposition to speak, we could do it in one meeting, but if you just read the Daily Journal on some stuff that the council did, I don't think that we need to follow suit and go that route. So we'll hopefully come back next meeting and have a vote.
I'll see you in April.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next item, PowerPoint presentation regarding sewer capacity fees. Now, what the capacity fees is not for, so we don't confuse people, it's not, you know, we had a lot of people say, well, why are we doing sewer rates? Why are we raising sewer rates for homes and businesses that are being built? We didn't do that. What this capacity fee is for is to take care of the new businesses, the new homes that's being built, where they pay their fair share to get into the system. And Jeff here asked me to come to this PowerPoint and give us the presentation on why it's needed and where we're at today. So thank you, Mr. Peters.
Thank you for the opportunity. You know, one of the discussions we had as we walked through the sewer rate setting process was operations and maintenance and these projects that we need at this point in time to have your system in the place that it needs to be in order to accept new development, continue to develop stuff on the east side, etc. So the rates you adopted look at the current rate structure plus those projects that you're going to do. One of the other things we mentioned was you have a sewer improvement fund, and you're spending about $1.1 million out of that toward your current system. And one of the questions that come up is, because you as a community have developed a very valuable system, when new people come aboard, should they pay into that system and buy an equity interest in it so that they own a fair share of what it is they're utilizing, or should they just get to come on board with basically no charge? What you've done in the past is you have a permit fee, but you haven't charged any additional fee to buy into that equity interest. So what we've done for you is provided a look at what that equity formula would provide for you and compared it to some other entities that also provide costs in an equity format to buy into their system. I'm going to go to the next one. Sewer capacity fee, we're going to look at a definition, kind of an overview, a fee comparison, and then in the appendix we've got your rates versus all these other entities if you impose this, and we've broken down those other entities to show you how their fees derived. So on the sewer capacity fee, again, we looked at utilizing the equity method to assign a capital cost for those people that are coming in as future customers to the system. And the goal of that is to get them at an equity position between you as the existing customers. And, you know, the assumption is that you have built up this equity interest in the system, which you definitely have. Because again, as we talked about, you've got a good, efficient system that currently serves your needs and serves their needs as they come aboard. Next slide, please. So for the sewer capacity fee, it's only assessed on new customers that are joining the system. The fee is equal to basically a per household value of the system. And then we've scaled up the prices for those commercial connections, the same as we did with your base fee on your sewage works, where we look at a residential connection, then a 1 inch, 1 1/4, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 8 inch connections, etc. Again, the goal is to get the new users into an equity position with you. You can implement this currently.
Jeff,
Yes.
can I stop you just a second? So there's no confusion. Some people may not understand that the 5/8, the 1 inch, and the 8 inch, that's based on the water line that runs to the
Yes,
facility.
that is the water line. As the system that you have in place, you do not measure the sewage output coming from your houses to the sewer plant. Instead, you are assessed based on the amount of water that you use. And you also have a base fee charged to each of your connections based on the water connection size that comes into that. And that is scaled on a mathematical formula that the engineers provide as the relationship between a 1 or a 2 or a 3 inch meter in relationship to like a 5/8 meter that feeds your normal residential house. And we try and break all these down basically into like residential units. So for the current permit fee structure for Franklin, you charge $2,000 for a 5/8 inch meter or a residential hookup. For anything between 1 and less than 2 inches, you charge $5,000. For 2 inches, you charge $10,000, and anything above a 2 inch meter, you charge $23,000. You could go to the next slide. So we went in to calculate this equity method for you, where we looked at the assets of the sewage utility, took away its depreciation for those assets that have been in place over time, added back the $1,092,000, which is what you're currently using out of your sewer improvement fund toward current projects, and then divided that amount down to get a asset per usage unit, and then the average residential usage at this 38.6, which is basically 3,860 gallons a month. So per each residential unit, to buy into that equity position would be approximately $1,674. You want to go to the next slide? So we gave you a comparison of Franklin to Greenwood to Lebanon to Plainfield and Bloomington. And these were entities online that had the details to look at upfront sewer connection fees. And as you see, you're all pretty much in the same boat in the smaller connections. But as you go further out, because you cap yours or plateau yours off at that 23,000, these other entities are charging the bigger equitable interest to buy into the system, which is what would be standard. If you want to go to the next slide. If you apply that methodology of adding the equity interest and then the mathematical scale up for the commercial connections, it would make it look more like this for you, where you start to fall in line with these other entities. And if you want to go forward, another one, and in the appendix. Okay, so this comparison is, if Franklin were to implement that, you can see the first connection fee is $3,674. That would be the $2,000 permit fee plus the $1,674 equity buy-in. That compared to Greenwood at about $3,000, Lebanon at $1,750, Plainfield at $2,290, and Bloomington at $2,775. If you go to the bottom and look at the 8-inch amount, in the Franklin scenario, you guys would be at $297,000 instead of $23,000. Greenwood's at $359, Lebanon's at $278, Plainfield's at $314, and Bloomington's at $454. So those larger properties, as they're coming online in those different communities, they are paying a bigger fair share into that equity pot for you. And what that does is continue to build a fund that you can use for capital improvement as you go forward, which, you know, we've gotten into at this point in time, using that for some of the projects. The other thing it does is when you get to that next point in time where potentially you may have to do another bond issue, you will have capital money on hand that theoretically will buy that amount down. So you'll borrow money less in the future because you will have acquired this other money to be used for capital improvements from these new people that come into your system. And then the last 2 pages of this study show you the breakdown between Franklin and the other entities. Some people call it a capacity fee, some people call it a treatment availability fee, a sewer availability fee. But we lumped all those together to show you one-time hookup charges as you come online, what yours looks like compared to the others. Again, this is not something that you have to do. This is separate from the rate study that you did, and I wanted to kind of present it that way. What you did the last time was what you needed to do to get that system into, and the rate structure into position so that you can continue your sewer system as it is today. This should be looked at separately as, what do we do about going forward in those future clients and future citizens that come into your community? How should they be treated, and what is fair to the existing clients of the sewer utility versus those that are going to come online?
For an example, Jeff, I think you and I talked about this, as we move forward with our sewer works, at some point, we will have to add on to our sewer plant more capacity. And if we implemented something like this now, that would help finance that at that time, correct?
Yes.
Do we have any idea what kind of revenue that this will be creating?
I did not. I did not go into the revenue side just because it, like I say, the revenue side that we did for the rate structure and the bond issue was necessary for that, but this was not. But we can definitely do that if you'd like us to go back and look at it.
What type of structure would use an 8-inch?
That would be an engineering question.
That'd be like a school, maybe?
That's probably quite a bit bigger than what a school would need, but facilities such as Nestle Waters up in Greenwood would
Okay.
use an 8-inch water main.
What about interstate warehousing? What size?
Very, very small, because their water use is gonna be mainly restrooms. So they may be able to get by with the 2-inch water main.
A NSK or someone like that?
Do we have anybody that uses an 8-inch in the city?
No, I think, are there any 6-inch in the city? It's all dependent on the type of industry that it is and the amount of water that they use. If they use a lot of processed water to, food processing would be one that would use quite a bit of water. So they may be up in the 4 to 6 inch main sizes.
those big those water bottle companies. I always figured the water flowed in from the mountains and places like that.
Okay, sir. Any other questions for Jeff while we're here? And the reason that this is not being introduced tonight, I think what this was to see if we want Jeff to move forward to come back with an ordinance our next meeting. That was the reason for tonight, wasn't it, Jeff? Just
Yeah, kind of to get your feeling if this is, again, I think this is a discussion you want to have as a fiscal body of the utility. Is this something that you should be doing going forward? Not that there's anything wrong with what you've done in the past, but this kind of gives you some perspective as to some of the people that you compete with for industries and what they get when they get hooked onto.
Jeff, I would see a lot of this would come in, I guess, as a new home is built, for example.
Yes.
Where's Whiteland at in that area? They built a lot of houses up in there.
I did not look at Wetland.
Okay. Would you
I tried to pick out those that,
My question is are there some lower than us? Or-
I'm sure there are.
Okay.
And I'm sure there are some that are lower for the mere fact that they want to get more and more users onto their utility for economies of scale.
Okay.
So what I tried to do was pick out entities that were around you that had the available information online, looking at an additional fee beyond just permit fees. Because there are some that don't charge those equity interests at all, like you do currently, and just charge a permit fee.
Yeah, I don't know that what you're talking about would put us at an economic disadvantage or a competitive disadvantage with some of these others that are, I don't know what Bargersville's doing, but I imagine theirs is probably high, but.
Yeah, I don't know that it would put you at an economic disadvantage. When we look at the comparison, looks like you fit right into the curve pretty well there.
And this doesn't include what the developer would pay too. Do they pay anything?
I'm not aware that the developer, I think a lot of these, the developer would pay on the front end, particularly for the housing, and that would just go into the value of the home and be sold.
It looks to me that really we're falling into the 2-inch to 3-inch range. Basically, the 1-inch to 2-inch is predominantly the same, but we'd be capturing funds from the 2-inch, 3-inch, 4, 6, and 8, which are the larger businesses and corporations that potentially be moving into our town. So I think that's a great idea to capture some of that money, because currently we're not. So that's just my 10 cents.
well, I was in agreement to do this, and that's why I wanted Jeff to come and present and try to get buy-in from the council and explain this is why we probably need to do this. We just went through the salary ordinance, and like I said, you have current homeowners thinking that they're paying the bill for new homeowners. So this would be a way to capture that new homeowner that's coming to get on our system, what we should be doing.
Well, as long as we're not shooting ourselves in the foot.
That's what I would want. Why we would be so high, especially on the 5/8 and 3/4 building new homes compared to the other cities around. We're almost double Lebanon, so it seems like we're shooting ourselves in the foot if we want to, sure we want to collect money, but do we want to be double for a builder to come in? If he's paying an extra $1,500 a home over 900 homes, it's a lot of money.
And you can certainly talk about a price and set a price that you feel comfortable with.
Yeah, I think we need to really look at, because the 5/8 and the 1-inch were considerably higher than, and that's probably going to be, I would guess, 70 to 80% of our hookups. We're considerably higher than Greenwood or Lebanon or Plainfield or Bloomington. So, if that's going to be, our major hookups, I think we've got to be priced competitively within that.
I agree. Do we have any percentages on where all these hookups are?
I have not gone into that in depth.
What do you mean?
But again, if you,
Like, how many, what's the percentage of someone using a 1 inch to a 1 1/4 inch compared to all the other hookups?
You know, what are people gonna ask for? You know, is that an 80%? Go Mark.
All residential is gonna be a 5/8 or 3/4 inch.
Okay.
The rest is commercial or industrial.
Yeah, I think Chris said the same thing, you know, what is that percentage of all of our hookups kind of going forward? You know, do we have 5% business, 10% business, or is it, you know, 9% is residential? So, you know, we gotta know where we're at and where that money's coming from. If we are, you know, putting it at $3,600 as our residential, is that gonna cost us, you know, a developer that's gonna bring a nice home in there because, hey, Franklin's $1,500 more than, you know, Greenwood or Lebanon or whatever it happens to be, you know, if they're plotting a big subdivision.
Understood.
So on the, adjusting the price of these total connection fees, the equity formula is what it is. But from the permit side, where currently you charge $2,000 per permit, you can bring that down in order to scale, if you want to scale this lower side to wherever you think you would be more competitive. I have not looked at that percentage by hookup. If you direct me to, I'll go back and look at that and bring you some additional information in the future.
I think that would be good to see, just to know where we're at with the hookups. You know, is it 90% residential? If we're high, I think we would be in trouble, shooting ourselves in the foot there.
Yeah, I'm good with that too, Jeff.
Good. Any other detail or research you'd like me to do between now and then?
Well, I would think with the permit fees, we'd probably want to get with Mark and see how does that weigh out with other permits that we do. So whenever we look, do we lower the permit fee or do we lower the capacity fee to get where we want to be? What's the biggest impact? So we want to take a look at that too, Mark.
Sure. And I would also estimate that we're probably well over 90% of the permits being residential. Knowing how many commercial permits we issue each year versus we're at somewhere around maybe 250 residential permits a year or something like that. So, and we're probably in the neighborhood of, I don't know, maybe 15 commercial or residential or non-residential.
I do know since 2017, we've built 415 homes. Do you know that?
Since 2017.
Yeah, that's interesting information, for sure. And I think it'd be advantageous for us to take advantage of this, what that, and what that's gonna be, still to be determined, but I think it's advantageous for us to do something similar to what you're proposing.
Great. I will bring you back additional information.
Thanks, sir.
So with that being said, do we feel comfortable with coming back with that information where if we get closer to, say, our friends to the north, that we can go ahead and put something in an ordinance and maybe change that at the meeting? If we need to, you see what we're saying, Jeff?
And you'll have
Yeah.
2 readings of your ordinance too,
Mm.
just like anything else, and you'll have a public hearing and that kind of stuff.
I would, like I said,
Yeah.
Yeah, so bring it back with an ordinance with the lower rate to be more competitive with Greenwood at the lower housing standard.
And we may have to adjust the permit fee, that's
Yeah,
what Jeff
yeah.
alluded
Right.
to.
Yeah.
Right.
Because the formula has to be consistent.
Right.
Because I think that our first 3 there on the list is we are by far the highest of, all 3 of those, the other cities that are surrounding us, and that's gonna be 90% of our hookups. Is it going to deter a builder from coming in to build, or a small business from coming in to build?
But we'll have to do it not on the capacity fee side, that's what Jeff alluded to.
Yeah.
We have to use the same formula for everybody.
Yeah, yeah.
We would just adjust our permit fees. Yeah. We're what, $750 higher than,
Mhm.
And do you want me to work with Stephen Watson on that ordinance?
yes, he's indicating when he wants to do that.
And you would still look at recommendation on those bigger pipes? Ramp size up a little bit. We're at 23,000, you said, on everything else.
Yeah,
Those- Yeah.
so potentially you would want to see the big side, you can go up a little bit higher, get more toward the middle of this
I
group.
think we're, you get these big companies coming in here that are gonna use this stuff. Well, we'll take a look at it anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, 3 through 8 inch, I think we're price competitive compared based on the others. Just those small 3, I don't think we would be price competitive.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So we'll go on to the next item. Common Council Ordinance Number 20-03, amending the Ordinance 20-01, the 2020 Salary Ordinance, and any amendments thereto. City Attorney Hungary.
Thank you, Mayor. In the category of, wow, things have been changing rapidly in the last week. Steve and I began discussing on Tuesday, what might happen. And if something were to happen where the governor or at the federal level were ordered to be closed, the balancing of interest that we had to have, as you know, as public officials, there is a ghost employment statute that we always have to think about, which means we can't pay people if they are not working in their normal, ordinary positions that they're supposed to work in, which is probably a good statute to have in place. That probably didn't contemplate the pandemic at any time. So, on Wednesday afternoon, with about 2 hours' notice, Steve and I put this amendment together because the State Board of Appeals, if we make a determination that we need to reassign people, have them work from home, adjust, the State Board of Accounts is going to want some official action from you all that authorizes us to do that and continue to pay our people. And there's really two schools of thought. And the first one was you can do it by amending your employment manual. The reason that I did not elect that choice at this point is that is a two-step process. And the concern was that by the time it comes back around in April, we may already be in a situation where we need to make a quicker decision. So I elected to prepare an ordinance that simply amends your 2020 salary ordinance and gives the mayor the ability to direct that we can make alternate arrangements with our employees. After the dust settles on all of this and we figure out what we're going to do, it may very well be that we will amend the employment manual months from now and see how this works. But this was the quickest way to do it. Now, when I say quick, it requires you to do two things tonight if you are inclined to go this direction. Number one, by unanimous vote of all of you today, you can consider this amendment on first reading. And that's what we were talking about with Rick. We rarely utilize that other than what I would call an emergency situation. So if you're inclined to do this, the first would be a motion to authorize consideration and passage on first reading, and that can only occur if all of you vote in favor of that. And in the second discussion would be approving the amended salary ordinance to include these emergency provisions in them, and that would need to be passed by a majority of the vote of the council members. The thought process here, and it is a fluid situation every day. We get a different directive every day. We get different information. And I will tell you, the department heads and the mayor and I have just had really good effort from all of them to adjust because everybody has a different situation within their department. Some people have people that may have health conditions that make it concerning that we would have them in our departments. Other departments are going to be required to work. You can see out front here The planning department put a table out there with people that can drop off plans, so there isn't that interaction with people. So the mayor's stated numerous times, we are open for business and we intend on remaining open for business. We're just doing some of our business a little differently. I know I've talked to Judge Lloyd, who was here. He would like to maybe have some shifts come in at different times than what they do now. And there would be nothing wrong with that. He as a department head could have some staff in at certain times when the public's there, other staff there to do their work when the public's not. Chip has utilized some of his folks that used to be working at the Adult Active Center to come over here in City Hall and wipe down all of those chairs today. They were here. They are also making contact with the people using Adult Active Center. So in order for us to continue to pay those folks, I think it's just appropriate that we have something recognizing that we are in an emergency situation and it's okay. It's not ghost employment if they're not here and working. There are some restrictions in the sense of, number one, it is when the city asks that maybe the employees be someplace other. So if we decide we want to close the Adult Active Center and we reassign those employees, that's one thing. If an employee were to call into the office and say, my children are home from school, I can't make it, then they would be using their sick days or their personal time because we weren't the ones asking them to pay. The general directions from the state have been is if a governmental entity has an employee who's ready, willing, and able to come to work, and you elect not to have them at the workplace, then we probably should pay them. Nothing in the law is clear that we should, but I think that's the message that the mayor wants to send. If you're here and want to work, and we tell you we can't use you here, we still should be paying those folks, and that's what's here. It's also, if you are being paid by the city during a work time, even though you may not be at your desk, you should not be working someplace else. So you're still on the city clocks, and our citizens don't see you collecting a city paycheck. And also, I started to say 10D bar, but you can't do that now. And doing, working someplace else or working your own individual business. So those are the restrictions that are set forth in the ordinance. I am more than happy to answer questions as best we can. It literally changes daily, but I think this gives us the flexibility to take care of our people, and both from a financial standpoint and from a health and safety standpoint.
Glenn, I have a question on item
Yes, sir.
2D.
Yes.
If, say that this gets passed tonight and there's an emergency declared today or tomorrow, we will not meet for another 14 days.
We'll have to have a special meeting.
Okay, so that's what we would have to do then, is have a special meeting, okay?
And we still may be open. I don't anticipate that they're going to shut all government down. They may just say, for instance, I saw an executive order today that said people are going to be off the streets from a certain time to a certain time. Just don't know. We would have to panel you again to ask your permission if we're doing more than the 10 days.
Well,
And that's staying home pay. I mean, that means our employees are staying at home and we're still paying them.
If we have a special meeting, that would have to be a public meeting as well.
Yes.
In other words, we couldn't get approval via email.
You cannot. Yeah, and that's the stay-at-home pay, where we're literally telling people, go home, stay home, and not really working. That's different than we have them come in. I know for treasurer's office has some people come in, take the work home with them, take the computer, and work remotely. That's not what's anticipated in D. Because we do have people that are doing that now, as we speak. Either because of that health condition, or let's say we have a building that tests positive, and we need to move our people somewhere.
so when do you need this, do you need the approved amended salary ordinance first?
No, I need you to pass a motion to consider it consider passage on first reading and have everyone unanimously authorize that. And then the second thing would be to approve the amended salary.
Okay.
I'll move for approval of the 20-03 amending ordinance.
Can't do that yet. The first motion I need is a motion to consider passage of ordinance on first reading.
So moved.
Second.
I need a roll call vote so that it will be a unanimous, Madam Treasurer.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Austin,
Yes.
Mr. Blankenship,
Yes.
Mr. Hugen,
Yes.
Ms. Jones,
Yes.
Ms. McGinnis,
Yes.
Mr. Reinerson,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor.
Yes.
Thank you. Now the motion for the ordinance is available for your consideration.
I don't know if I want to do it.
You got Bob. You got Bob.
I'll move for adoption of resolution 20-03.
Second.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. And while we're here, I said earlier that I would speak a little bit on the actions that's been taken. And I am really proud of our department heads. So this has been, like Lynn said, this is changing every day. And I think we've met several times and come up with a good plan. And the first thing that I got with Chip, because that is the most, with the Active Adult Center, and we hear that our seniors is the ones that's most vulnerable. I don't know, Chip, we started talking last Monday night or Tuesday or something of shutting down our Active Adult Center. That was the first, we did that first. The staff, we decided, and I've been over at the Active Adult Center quite a bit, and I will tell you that there's a lot of those folks over there that rely on getting a meal from our Active Adult Center. So Chip and I talked about they come in, they're gonna clean, and they're checking on our active adults, that's members there, once a day, once every other day, to make sure that they are getting food, and our staff, if need be, will deliver some of the meals that we were preparing to them. So I just want you to know that we are looking after our seniors. Another thing we talked about, shutting down until April the 6th, which is Monday. That's our next council meeting. We have a department head meeting that day, and then we'll decide at that time, is it the right time to open back up, or do we go a little longer? We don't really know. We don't know where we're headed here. So that's where we're at with that. In the rec center, the very next day, we got to talking about, in the schools, we're talking about closing, and I've been going to the rec center quite a bit to see the activity that's over there, that, we need to, when the school's closing, we're gonna have all the kids, children over there. We just thought it was the right time to go ahead and close the rec center. We're keeping the people working. We got plenty they can do, the part-time people even. We're not sending people home. They're gonna also give a super cleaning of the place, and like today, they come over here and help clean up everything here. So we're gonna utilize them and get caught up on some things that's been neglected maybe for a while. The parks and recs programs, facilities, they've all been closed for a while. Like we go to school swimming pool, of course the schools shut down their schools. Compass Park swimming pool, we're not going there. The facilities that we also maintain, the rec center, Beeson Hall, Palmer Park, Community Center, the Active Adult Center, some pool reservations at middle school that we were in charge of, all of that is stopped. And we'll, again, figure out what do we want to do April the 6th. So when people ask you, that's what we're doing for the Parks Department. I know here at City Hall, and I want to just say this too, and this applies to everything, like every department, having additional cleaning wipes and hand sanitizers that's been provided, throughout the floors. Employees have been directed to use these items liberally. Liberally? Okay. Liberals. Okay, I'll be quiet. Okay, employees have been directed to stay home if they exhibit signs of infection, whether the flu or cold symptoms. The public access to City Hall has been restricted, including routine meetings. This is going to be the last meeting we have until the 6th, and we'll evaluate that when it gets to the 6th. Hopefully, we're going to be able to have the next council meeting. That's our intent anyway. Like technical review committees, the Plan Commission meeting, that's been canceled. There's supposed to be a Plan Commission meeting tomorrow night. Procedures been put in place. There's a drop box out front that people can put deposits in or whatever they need for plans, pick the phone up, use the website. And we do have the doors going into the main office is going to be locked tomorrow. The hall will be opened up where the desk is. They know they've got phone numbers there to call if they need something. We can, I mean, I think we got to not only protect the public, but we got to protect ourselves too, our own employees. So that's where we're at with. We're telling people also water fountains, don't use water fountains, that sort of stuff. Just today we found, you know, we're changing things all the time. We've made a few changes to the planning department stuff with both exterior doors. Tomorrow they need to be unlocked during the business. We had one, somebody thought they just tried one door and couldn't get in. We're going to have the interior doors locked, and then Sandy, the clerk, receptionist is sitting downstairs in case somebody knocks on the door and needs something. We can talk through the door, decide if we want to have them come in or that sort of thing. Also, at DPW, DPW they're kind of doing the same thing. They have a drop box outside their door. They've got it posted, you know, use the drop box, use the online payment, case by case basis. If somebody needs assistance, they got a sign on the door, knock on the door, and we can talk through the door, or we can actually have you come in. And I'm kind of leaving that up to people's discretion. We're recommending don't do that, but you know, we're just kind of trying to do business in a different way. And again, with all the sanitation and cleanup services and door handles, actually they're using latex gloves. You know, you get money in and that sort of stuff. Money's probably one of the most infectious things out there. So they're just using good common sense, washing hands like we've been told by the CDC and all the health departments. I know Mark, let me get Mark's here, but I'll get to the street department is doing basically the same thing with, and a lot of their traffic we found out, and Brett brought this up the other day, he's not getting as much foot traffic as he used to get because we feel like we're doing such a good job. We don't have people coming in and complaining. You guys are doing a great job, the street department. And used to they'd get the complainers come in, and they're not having much of that. So, but we are locking those doors and trying to get them to use the phones if they got complaints and all that, and sanitizing everything. Mark, I'm gonna let Mark talk on the city court stuff a little bit. Mark, if you don't mind, on what city court's doing, you're here. Can you kind of explain your plan a little bit?
And while Judge is coming up to the mic, oh, are you coming up? This is such a reversal role. You usually tell me where to go. But while Judge is doing that, I did want to say too, one of the things that department heads were advised this morning, and are gonna work hard on the front end, is keeping track of all the ways that we have modified that may have cost us as a city money. Buying additional hand sanitizer, losing their rentals, because people have canceled their rentals at the parks and those kind of things, refunding active adult center fees. The reason we're keeping that is the significant portion of when the president declared a national emergency, I anticipate that there will be an opportunity to seek payment for those funds, much like we did with any other national emergency, like we did with FEMA when the flood happened and stuff. So already our department heads are making lists of those things as we come across them, and hopefully 6 months from now or 9 months from now or whatever, we'll be asking for some of that to be reimbursed. And I would think some of these monies that we might pay when we don't get employees working will also be put there. Sorry, Judge. Thank you.
Mark Lloyd, Franklin City Court Judge. Very simply, we've met today with, we being the judges, met today with other stakeholders. We're implementing an administrative order that applies for all the courts, both county and city in Johnson County, toward protection of both the staff as well as litigants that are involved in our proceedings. The bottom line is for Franklin City Court is a significant portion of the caseload will be continued until after May 1st. We will continue to handle essential and emergency matters as necessary. on a case-by-case basis. I am partnering with the county facilities to take care of the detained or incarcerated individuals by way of video conferencing. The city court at Franklin, Greenwood does, city court at Franklin does not have that equipment. So we're going to partner with the county to obtain that at some later point in time. I'll talk to you about that particular issue. Yes, that was an editorial while I'm here. As well, as indicated, Mayor, there is a hearing room out at juvenile that often has cases with a number of family members and individuals that it's not really a healthy environment to have those hearings with that many people congregated in one small courtroom. So I've offered the Franklin City courtroom for that magistrate's use. Should need to will not cost a minute of our staff time from the city standpoint. They will bring their own staff and simply use what is already an empty courtroom for their use. I think that covers it.
Also, Mark, if you do find a time that you need somebody to come and help clean after maybe the juvenile court's in there or whatever, that take a chip and we'll try to help with that.
Oh, yeah, we have upped our ante with regard to cleaning, the regular cleaning individual. So hopefully that'll take care of matters. All the staff there will in large part still be there because we're able to continue collection of infraction and other matters because we do have a barrier with regard to a bullet-resistant window. All the staff now are operating with gloves whenever they handle any paperwork, money, or other items from public. So I believe we can stay in operation during regular hours for collection purposes and answering questions. We are going to shut down to some extent for the next month and a half or so in the court sessions as best we can. I can't eliminate them completely. I still have to have essential and emergency hearings as necessary, but that'll be on a case-by-case basis.
Thank you, Mark.
Well,
And then we have probably the two most vulnerable would be fire department, police department. Matt and I talked quite a bit about precautions the fire medics and firemen need to take. Matt, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So, first of all, we've instituted training every day over COVID-19. So every day they get at least a half an hour discussion on what the policy is. And unfortunately, we're going to call it the policy of the day since it changes so frequently. We just put out a policy this morning, and I had a meeting with part of the incident management team that is going to run the county fire service through this so that we all kind of have the same joint agreement of what minimum protection if I come assist you or we're going to come in. Luckily, I got to be the safety director for the county, so yay. So we're doing training every day. We put together isolation kits for each first out truck. We're staying away from sick people that get positive screenings from the dispatch center, and we're also doing what we are calling screen door assessments also. So before we even make entry into your house, no matter what the issue is we're going to ask the same questions dispatch did is, do you have a fever, do you have a cough? Even though travel is not important anymore, the hospital system still in the state of Indiana want to know that kind of information and whether or not you've been in contact with a known COVID-19 person. So they're going to ask all those questions. Only one person at a time is going to go in and under PPE, if necessary, based off the screenings, and only one person, and they're going to carry very, very minimal equipment, and they're going to go in and start making decisions. As of right now, the county has 2 isolation ambulances. However, they're being overrun, if you hard to believe. So Indianapolis itself, and this is kind of what I'm talking about, is decided no longer to do that concept, and we're just transporting in PPE and normal ambulances. So expect the county to go in that direction also, just because we're running out of PPE, running out of ambulances. It takes 2 hours to decon an ambulance. We're not even allowed to touch it for 2 hours if we transport a possible suspect that has to sit in a parking lot for 2 hours before we're allowed to go in and clean it. So we do have limited resources of ambulances, so we're not actually having abundance, especially when we gotta wait a 2-hour time frame. The hospitals are going to come out with what we're going to call enhanced SORs, which pretty much state that right now, hospitals are required to see all patients that are bring in to their facilities. Those are called, that's called MTOL violations. They are actually getting suspended due to the Stafford Act. So we are no longer going to be required, if you want to go to the hospital, we're not going to be required to take you by law anymore. The hospitals, Community South and Johnson Memorial Hospital, are working right now to put out a joint statement, because half the county works under Johnson Memorial Hospital protocols, the other half work under Community South protocols, so that way everyone in the county is doing the exact same thing. And so if Kenny calls me and twists his ankles, we're going to pretty much tell you, Kenny, you twisted your ankle, you need to take some ibuprofen, stay at home, and call your physician. And the same thing, if we show up and you got flu-like symptoms and no respiratory distress, the doctors are saying, stay at home, call your family physician. Steve had the HR lady put out, we have free access through Sydney Health app to get a virtual screening through Anthem for us. IU Health is doing the same thing. They have an app where you get a virtual screening by a doctor, and so does the Community Health Network. So they're doing that. So there's no reason, if it's not a major incident, not to stay at home, take care of yourself, and those types of incidents. We're also working on cleaning a lot better. I know that sounds bad, but just disinfecting a lot more, hand washing. I mean, we talk about hand washing probably 10 times today. After every run, make sure you wash your hands. But pretty much we're trying to stay away from possible infected individuals as much as possible, keep our equipment away from those, and only expose people in proper PPE in only a select few based off of the condition that the patient has. Now,
PPE is personal
thank
protective.
you, Gordon, I'm sorry. And it's outlined by the CDC what we're required to and to not wear, and also like if there's supply chain issues, which are about to come through, that there's not enough N95 masks, that we're allowed to actually lower the level of protection. I know that sounds weird, but due to the fact that we don't have all these products available. And we have worked with partner organizations, Walmart, Myers. They've kept some hand sanitizer back for both me and Kirby, so that they've kept it back and gave it to the first responders. I will tell you, I think in the Board of Works, these school systems, since they are closed right now, they had some hand sanitizer that they had kids bring in the first of the year that they were not using, and they graciously allowed us to borrow some, which we will, once we have access to buying hand sanitizer that's not ultra expensive, we pay them the favor.
So Chief, we're not gonna run into a situation like White River did today.
I want to tell you, I can't guarantee that. The problem with that is they got called on a cardiac arrest. I will tell you, we do not send as many people on a cardiac arrest as they do. We have a different philosophy, okay? That's all I'm going to tell you, is we have a different philosophy than they do. So, right there, we're cut down about half the people. We'd only have 3 or 4 firemen on the scene plus the SEALs units, whereas they had 10 firemen on the scene with their ambulance crew involved. So the problem is when somebody goes on cardiac arrest, it's hard to ask them, have you had a cold, have you had a flu, since they're unconscious and unresponsive and not breathing at the time frame. And that was just an abundance of caution. The patient that deceased is getting tested to see if he has the virus so that they can be released from quarantine.
Thank you.
But it takes a while. I mean, so right now, if you go through the State Department of Health, which has got the 169 cases so far that they tested in the state, it takes about 4 to 5 hours. If you go to the labs that they're talking about, you can use LabQuest and stuff like that. It takes 4 to 5 days for the results to come back. So, depending on who you use, it's a significant difference in time too.
Seems like there's no place that carries the test that has the actual test.
Right.
So, okay, we're talking about what the department's doing, so.
Go ahead.
Can we get Kirby to come up and
Sure.
talk about the police a little bit, not to cut you off?
Oh, no, Kirby's one. You're the man.
No, and here's the reason I asked, and I wanted to talk about the departments, what they're doing. The council, I know they get asked, what are you guys doing? I get asked all the time. My Tara will tell you, her phone was ringing off the wall today. Matter of fact, I got a headache, and I thought, I hope I'm not getting sick here. Because it was all day long with phone calls.
Yeah, I'll keep it short. Thank you, Matt, for covering a lot of PPE stuff. For us, we are definitely short on the N95 mask, which is kind of crucial. You're going to expose somebody. So what we've really done is just tried to limit that exposure, but keep in mind, we are a police department, so we do have to respond. What we're doing on non-emergency calls is we're just sending one officer to those calls. We're trying to keep an officer responding to residents or business for a call down to one officer until we know exactly what we have. I can tell you last night we did have what we thought was a stabbing in Cove last night, so we had several officers respond there. Those are situations we can't prevent that. I mean, we do have to send enough officers to be safe. The non-essential things such as fingerprinting, gun permits, picking up reports, things like that, VIN checks, where we would typically have somebody come in the office and fill out some documents. We're not doing that. We're trying to take as many reports over the phone as we can take, so we limit our exposure. Most of you have been to the police department. If you haven't, you cannot access the inside of our building and our staff anyway until we let you in, unless you're an employee. We've actually locked the second set of doors, which now restricts you from even getting in to that lobby area. We have sanitized that entire area. Everybody in that building is running around with Lysol wipes and a can of spray. So right now it's kind of what we're doing just to keep the exposure down. We did have, I sent Deputy Chief Summers to a meeting today at the Sheriff's Department. We also have a lot of things going on with training and just kind of keeping people on their toes with, if you're sick, stay home. We haven't had, knock on wood, anybody yet take advantage of that. We've asked everybody to implement a general order that says if you have a fever, call before you come to work and we'll get the shift covered. So all of our administrative staff are in uniform, ready to go to work if we need to anyway. So I think we're doing everything that we do at this point.
So I would just want everybody here, I want you to know that their department heads, chiefs doing a great job. I think tomorrow I'm going with you guys to the meeting, countywide meeting to probably hear some more different stuff. So it's about the time you think you get something that changes.
Chief, you got also, don't you, have transfer?
Yeah.
And that's, yeah, next item, thank you, Kenny. Common Council Budgetary Resolution number 20-04, authorizing a transfer from Police 200 supplies to Police 400 capital in an amount of $4,999.
Thank you, Mayor. Basically, we're just asking to transfer $4,999 from our police supplies fund over to capital. It's for a printer that needs to be replaced up in investigations. We went from 5 or 6 guys in investigations to about 10 or 11. And so the copiers that we're using were basically desktop copiers that are worn out. They're 6, 8 years old. The ink is far exceeding the cost of the equipment. And then we recently had a couple more with this homicide and the drug raids that we've been doing. We now have 2 other state troopers and a DEA agent that's on station a lot of times. So simple version is we have old printers that need replaced, and this is the most cost-effective solution to that. We're just asking to transfer funds.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, and this one, yearly tax, no, wait a minute, skip Mark. Yeah, we don't want to skip Mark. Common Council Budgetary Resolution number 20-05, authorizing a transfer from Record Perpetuation Services 300 to Record Perpetuation Supplies 200 in the amount of $10,000.
Thank you. Mark Lloyd, Franklin City Court. Fairly simple transfer from one series to another for future expenditures out of that fund. If you will recall, this is a fund that's already appropriated, so we're just simply transferring from one series to another.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That was pretty simple, wasn't it, Mark?
Thank you. I'll take 1 minute out of work, so the public defense chief, his staff was kind enough early on to provide us with some gloves to assist my staff in handling the public. We now have purchased our own, but thank you, Chief.
Okay, next, yearly tax abatement compliance report, Community Development Specialist Dana Moss.
Good evening. Last Tuesday, the Economic Development Commission met and reviewed these 18 companies that you have listed in your packets tonight, found them in substantial compliance. There are 4 other companies that they also reviewed that they're doing further due diligence on. We still have 6 that are yet to come back. So for now, we do have these 18 that we are bringing to you for approval of their compliance, to find them in substantial compliance.
These have all gone through EDC then?
Correct, they all went through EDC last Tuesday, they were all found, they all approved substantial compliance.
Is this one motion for all of this, all these attachments and everything, or just?
That's
Yeah.
at your discretion if you want to do that.
Yeah, you can do it, because as I read each one of the reports, there weren't anything within the EDC that had any problem. They were all.
No, these are all substantial compliance. Yeah, Ms. McGinnis is on the commission, she can answer any questions as well.
Okay, great.
I'll move for acceptance of the compliance reports.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Mr. Taylor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, I'm supposed to ask any other discussion? Any opposed? Hearing none. Yes, forgot to say that Ann was the mayor appointment to the EDC, and glad you're there. Thank
Glad to
you.
have it. Thank you.
And if you're wondering sometimes, and I know we're getting late, I shouldn't say this, but everybody's got to go. Whenever I say who made the second, I've been asked by the recorder to say who makes the second, just so you guys know. That's why I say that. They can usually pick out who makes the motion, but sometimes they can't pick out who says the second. So that's why I do that, just so you know. You got anything else?
Anything else?
Okay, thank you. That was quick too. So we don't have any other business, but I think we'll start down with Ann on comments.
I just want to thank everyone, especially department heads, for what you've been doing in this emergency situation. I know it's not easy for anyone, but thank you. Appreciate it.
I second that. And that was a second by Councilor Anderson.
Yeah, shout out to all of our department heads and to all of our employees. Because it's not easy what we're doing at the times we're in. And Lisa, congratulations. We look forward to serving with you and excited for you. And welcome aboard.
Called my brother today, he is a meat cutter at Meyer, to ask him how he's getting along, because I figure they're stressed out right now, but he went on to say that his wife is more concerned about her because she's the one at Kroger. You might recognize her as when you go to those self-checkouts, she's one of them up there that has to handle all that, so keep all these folks in mind, because I don't know what we'd be doing right now without these people. Also, you used the word litany, was that the word you used a minute ago, litany?
Litany of things.
Yeah, Danny, I think when we grew up on the north end, we just used to say a lot.
Often.
Often, yeah.
Any other stuff? That's it. Ms. Jones, Lisa?
No, I just want to reiterate what everyone else said to our department heads and all the staff. Everything you're doing is greatly appreciated by everyone. If there's anything that we can do to help support you, please reach out to me. I'm sure everyone else probably feels the same way. We'd be happy to be of any assistance that we can be.
Mr. Blankenship?
What she said.
Thank you very much for all your help and all you do.
Mr. Taylor?
You guys have done an amazing job getting everything put together, and the sanitation and cleaning, everything's been, and getting everything out to the public, be it Facebook, email, text, Twitter, whatever it is. So keep up the good work.
Tara's doing a great job with trying to keep the public informed, so appreciate that, Tara. Ms. Rose?
I'd like to thank Attorney Gray. We couldn't have done last week or this week without her, believe me. She's probably going to block my emails. So I do appreciate, and sometimes you're the unsung hero. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I do want to say that my department, I know you all want to go, but the department heads always come to me. And when they have a question, they usually have a suggestion, or they or have an idea. So you've really got some really good department heads and elected officials. And I, being a half-glass full kind of person, really believe that at the end of this, number one, we're going to come up with some ideas to be really more efficient. And on a daily basis, on an hourly basis, we see the best. Somebody's going to complain, that's just the nature of the beast. You wouldn't believe how often we get somebody who really steps up and do the best people. So it'll be fine, we won't panic. I told Jane, the guideline is, we just don't steal, cheat, or lie, we'll be okay. Just do what the best thing is, and we'll be all right, we'll be fine.
All right. I think with that being said, we need a motion to adjourn.
I'll motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second by
Mr. Taylor, Mr. Taylor.
Ms. McGinnis got the second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Yeah.